What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Jump, a late night post rivalry week episode for you all. So, some quick reactions. I'm filming this as the final seconds are ticking down of the Texas and Texas A&M game. So we'll talk about that one. I only have a few games, and then I'll go through a couple scores and a couple thoughts, and a lot of college football playoff talk in this one because Twitter has been on me tonight for a take that I have about the college football playoff and the current landscape of a certain team that should not be in. And if you watched last episode, you may already know who I'm referring to. So there's that in this episode. Rest in peace to a college basketball legend. That'll be like one quick thing that I hit at the end. So there's that. And my personal team, if you're not a long-time like subscriber or a listener or anything, I'm a Kentucky fan. My team gets absolutely embarrassed on the home field, but someone saw it coming, and that someone was me. So, a lot to get to in this episode. I'm excited to talk about it. Super fun week. It was flag planting week. Nobody told me. Flags being planted all over the place, and one trident from the Sun Devils. So, a lot to get to. With all that being said, let's get straight into it. So, we'll start out on a Friday night game, Georgia Tech at Georgia. Clean, old-fashioned hate in Athens. This game was cinema. So many people turned this off when Georgia Tech went up 17-0, probably. Obviously, you start to worry a little bit. Not going to advise anybody to gamble or anything, but at halftime, down 17-0, I did bet on, or was it 20-0? 17-0, I think. I did bet on Georgia money line, so you make a decent little payout. Thank you, Kirby Smart. Georgia wins 44-42 in the European goofy overtime type of game. So it was pure chaos. So Haynes King, I did see some stat. He's like the first player to ever run for 150 and 3 touchdowns while also throwing for 300 or something on a top 10 team. It was a very specific stat, but very impressive stat. Shout out to Haynes King. And Brent Key, he had all the quotes about hating Georgia. All these different things. Like, it was a legit rivalry again, where it hadn't felt like that in the last few years, and Brent Key's got his guys playing great. This kind of felt like a snoozer, like going into it, like Georgia, maybe they were sleeping and not expecting Georgia Tech to come out and punch them in the mouth, and they did. But yeah, the overtimes, I think this resulted in 8 overtimes, but once you got to the European goofy stuff in the third overtime where you're just doing 2 points for 2 points, I think there was only one overtime where they both converted. And then Georgia obviously had the last one. Georgia Tech fails. That was pure chaos. And I'll never forget what they took away from us with that overtime rules back in the LSU A&M 2018 days. Like, those were perfect. This didn't, like, shorten it at all. And it was kind of like abuse because these kids, they'd go 0 for 2. Both teams miss on the 2-point conversions. And then they'd make them walk 100 yards, go to the other end, and it was just stupid. A blast, though. It was a blast. But obviously, yeah, Georgia, there's like all these different things. And the biggest talk of it all was the SEC bias, Georgia getting a whistle. There was obviously a few plays. There was the should have been targeting on, I can't think of his name now, put it on Georgia when there resulted in a fumble from Haynes King. There was a hold on a play. There was different PIs late. Like, it was very one-sided, but I could understand like where they're coming from with a couple of them. And then in overtime, I mean, they both kind of got their fair share of whistles. I think overtime was fairly officiated. Obviously, Georgia Tech got a PI one time on that goofy play, and then yeah, it was pure chaos. But Georgia wins. That's all that matters. It is crazy the difference between going to 8 overtimes is like nearly the same thing as losing this game on like a game-winning field goal, but it doesn't matter. There's a W in the column for wins. They're going to the college football playoff, whether they win or lose next week. No. So that game aside, Georgia wins in chaos. Georgia Tech, I mean, they're going to be scary for Georgia these next few years. So that's going to be just a really fun rivalry to follow. The next game, there's 2 more major games I need to mention. Michigan and Ohio State. Now, I'm going to be honest. This game, I'm not even going to talk much schematically what happened on the field. I'm talking grand scheme of things. Number one, Ryan Day is fired. If there's any result other than a national championship, he has to be fired effective immediately right after that loss. Even a runner-up, I think he might be fired. So there's that. Obviously, it's crazy. Like, he's 66-7, 66-8, whatever he is. But he's now 1-4, I think, against Michigan. And if you can't beat this Michigan team, look, I have no dog in the fight. I'm a Kentucky fan. Watching this game from an unbiased perspective year in and year out, there is no reason at all. Like, I thought this was the year, and Ohio State fans have mentioned it all year. This is a 7-4, or were they 6 and? I think they were 6-5, right? I don't know what Michigan's record was going into this, but whatever they were, horrible Michigan team. In the picture of like what they've been, you can understand losing to them last year. Absolutely incredible team. Like, yeah, you can say they cheated, whatever. That team was probably going to win a national championship, cheating or not. But this team, Ohio State, you have a chance to end it. There was people like Andy Staples, which obviously Andy knows ball, absolute genius of the sport. He was thinking the logical scenario, Ohio State's going to put it on them, cover that spread, maybe win by 30. That just makes so much more sense than this scenario of Michigan winning this game. Michigan wins 13-10. Like, all you had to do was score 2 touchdowns. And the craziest part is this could have been a whole lot worse than what it was. If it wasn't for Jack Sawyer making an absolutely incredible Madden lurk play, if he had bit and they throw it right over his head, or Davis Warren just throws an okay pass and floats it a little further, there's another touchdown on the board, and this is a 20-10 game instead of a 13-10 game. There was numerous occasions that, like, I mean, every facet of the game, this was, it was like they were like scared the whole time. Like, I went into it and I was like, I mean, Ohio State would probably roll. Michigan might cover this, and then obviously early, the pick, Michigan scores off the pick. 7-3. I was like, oh, it's kind of funny, stop the count, that type of thing. Michigan's going to do it again, laughing emojis all over Twitter. Like, nobody. And Desmond Howard, yes, he picked it on game day. I promise you, in the heart of hearts, he did not think Michigan was going to win this game. But hail to the victors at the end of the day. This was absolutely insane. This is the best college football roster that a human can possibly assemble. Millions and millions and millions of NIL money put into this team for this. And to lose to a Davis Warren-led offense that throws for like 60 yards, it's incredible. I don't know what Ryan Day has done. He needs to... I have no idea. I don't know what the curse is that's on Ryan Day. He just can't beat this team. This is literally the most embarrassing thing I can even imagine. And if I was an Ohio State fan, I'm not sure if I would mentally ever recover. You'd have to beat them 20 straight times to make up for this. It's horrible. And now you go back to Ann Arbor next year with, I don't know if it's going to be Bryce Underwood starting or if it's going to be, so it could be 5-star Bryce Underwood. It could be a transfer that Dave Portnoy throws money out his A-word to go get. This is going to be a good Michigan team next year. This team, this is a Michigan team without Colston Loveland, their number one offensive player. I know Cuomo is a phenomenal player, but Colston Loveland's by far their best offensive player. He doesn't play in this game. Will Johnson, the best corner in all of college football, in the entire land, he doesn't play. And you lose to this team. This isn't even like the roster that's out there without those two. This is a below 500 Michigan team. And they go beat you on your home field in Columbus. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. You go back there. This is why I think he's got to be fired. If you can't win this one, Michigan's not afraid to play the NIL game now. They're going to start getting dudes quick. You can already see it. There's been so many flips. It's Merry Flipmas season. Michigan's going to be amazing from here on out. Obviously, they had the transfers, like the rebuild type year because they're, Jim Harbaugh leaves. The whole team leaves. And this team, it beats you. It's incredible. It is incredible. Shout out to John Fanza. He tweeted right after the game, from Fox Sports Research. This is just the second time in the series history that an unranked Michigan team beat an AP-ranked Ohio State team on the road, and the first time since 1950. Michigan closed as a 19.5-point favorite, or 19.5-point underdog, making this the largest upset in the series since at least 1978. That's as far back as they have historical spreads for. Oh, man. Ryan Day. This, I mean, I can't even, like, I was telling my mom earlier, like, this is, like, I was just kind of telling everybody, this is the craziest thing I think I've ever seen. Like this is up there with, like, I mean, it might sound stupid to some of you might understand where I'm coming from. This is up there with, like, LeBron leading the Cavs to a 3-1 comeback. This is insane to me. I saw Jack Mack from Barstool, incredible work by him. He had tweeted, or maybe it was TikTok or something, he was like, the European mind cannot comprehend this. It can't. This is absolutely incredible. And yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm literally at a loss for words. Like, obviously, I mean, I'll talk about the chaos and drama after the game, but there was another clip that just surfaced like an hour ago of, I think it was Mason Graham after the game saying Ohio State P-word in Jack Sawyer. He hears it, and he's like, hey, your season's over after this. You all are done. Obviously, they'll have a bowl game, but you get what he's referring to. Ohio State's going to the college football playoff still. Michigan is not. That's not even like a burn. You didn't get him at all. They just beat you on the field. It's just embarrassing, man. This group of seniors, all these guys returned to beat this team. To beat the team up north, and they don't get it done. It is absolutely insane. It is incredible. I mean, it is mind-blowing that Michigan just beat this Ohio State team. I can't believe it. This is like, I don't know what the next move is. Like I said, I think anything other than a national championship, which I don't think is out of the play. It might be crazy. I think, rivalries, all that, throw that out the window. Their other losses at Oregon by a point. I think they can still win the national championship, and I don't think that's crazy at all. Which, with how chaotic this season's been, how ironic would that be? But yeah, this is incredible. What a time we live in. 4 straight for Michigan. And I was saying earlier that it felt like my entire life I could never even imagine Michigan beating Ohio State, because I think Urban Meyer was like 7-0, 8-0, whatever he was. Jim Harbaugh could never get over the hump. All these different things. And then now it's like, now I don't even remember Ohio State really doing it. Like, it's crazy. And yeah, I mean, Sharon Moore said it after the game. He was like, we didn't cheat this time. So it was basically kind of calling out all the naysayers of last year and whatnot. But yeah, and the trolling was at an all-time high between Dave Portnoy and Connor Stallions. Incredible stuff. And like I said, if I was an Ohio State fan, I'm not sure I would ever recover from this. It would be absolutely insane to be in their shoes. But moving on to the game I was most excited for the day, because nobody knew that was really even going to be a game, so I can't lie and say I was most excited for that. The game I was looking forward to the most, the Lonestar Showdown, because this was the first one that I can remember of my college football fandom. This game was last played in 2011, so it had been a little bit. I think, A&M was 20, Texas was 3, whatever. Awesome game. Looking forward to it all week. The pure hatred. Game Day did a phenomenal job this morning of really capturing what the hatred and the just pride of these two fan bases, what it means. Like, they did an amazing job. Dude Perfect did an amazing job of it with Tyler Toney doing all the chants and stuff. It was awesome. All the hype for it was perfect, top notch. But this game, one big takeaway. This game to me feels like this is a Texas team. Obviously, Sark's been there 4 years, 3 years. I don't know, my math's all messed up. But Sark's been there a few years. It feels like the team in burnt orange and white, or whether they're cream or white or whatever they are, that team in burnt orange has been built up, and the roster has an identity to it, and they were built for a reason. and all these different things. And A&M, obviously, it's not Mike Elko's fault. He just got there. It felt like that team was kind of thrown together, very, very well coached. Let me put that out there. And let me say this as a blanket statement. Absolutely incredible job of Mike Elko this year. Going 8-4 with that roster. Obviously, they should have won the Auburn game and maybe should have won the Notre Dame game early. But like Notre Dame, obviously, that's aged like wine. What an amazing job he did this year in getting this game, all the hype going into it. Like they could have been 6-5 going into this game or something like that. So all that aside, this is what that game felt like. It was a team that was built up and knows who they are versus a A&M team that's kind of whatever. So that was kind of my big takeaway, and it showed for the most part because Texas was legitimately unstoppable the entire game, offense and defense. Defense played absolutely lights out. They shut out their offense. There was the pick six that got the points on the board, but they were unstoppable. The pick six, it was tipped too, so it wasn't even really like a huge thing. And then the Quinn Ewers fumble, no, they didn't end up getting the fumble. That was a huge play in the game. They had 12 men on the field, so that would end up being a huge play. But nonetheless, Texas defense is the biggest takeaway. That defense is absolutely incredible. They did not let after the block punt, whatever the time was at that point. I think A&M got the ball. They're on the 19 going to score, and I said, I'm not sure if A&M's moved the ball 20 yards on a single possession this entire night. Did they move it 20 yards? No, they did not. They get stopped at the 1, and I'll talk about that here in a minute too. So huge thing early. Kelvin Banks goes out, top 3 left tackle in America, and I just wanted to give a shout out because Trevor Gooseby. I think they said he was a true freshman. We just got news of Texas not planting the flag at midfield. They stomped on it. They stomped on the logo. So, I guess if there was a fight, then we'll hear about it. And because Steve Sarkisian pulls Texas players away from Texas A&M logo at midfield after big road win. So, shout out to Sark for that. Didn't have to deal with all of that. But shout out to Trevor Gooseby. He stepped up, and obviously, when an O-line is doing the best is when you don't notice them. So, you didn't see any flaws from that left side of the O-line there for Texas. So, shout out to Trevor Gooseby. Stepped up in that spot, and I don't know how the level of severity for that injury for Kelvin Banks. I think they said Holly said that he came back out with a boot on. So we'll have to. That's very, very noteworthy going into the Georgia game because obviously the last time they played, Georgia absolutely wrecked them in the trenches. So we'll see what happens there. The 12 men on the field, that penalty was massive. That gives you the ball around the 50. I don't remember where they were exactly. So that gives you an opportunity to score. They don't get that. That whole thing there was terrible. This was the biggest complaint for me. I mentioned they blocked the punt. Incredible athletic play there. And get the ball on the 19, go down to go score on the 1. It's about they're down 17-7 with about 4:30 left. I don't remember the exact timing. They get down, blah, blah, blah. It's like 3rd and goal from the 1. They get stopped right up the middle, and I was like, oh my goodness, please just kick the field goal. It's 17-7. You can get that to a one-possession game, and who knows? A fumble, a scoop and score, a pick six somehow. Anything can happen, and you're tied up. They call a timeout, and they go for 2, running, what was it, a counter, a trap, whatever it was. Never had a chance. I think he got stopped like 2 yards behind the line. It had been like that the entire night. When they needed a yard, they were never getting it. And Texas stops on the goal line, and that ultimately ended the game right there. I mean, that was the game. I don't understand Colin Klein's mindset. Even sitting there through a timeout, you have that long to talk about it, and you still come out and you're like, yep, all right, let's just go for 2. I don't understand, you get it to a 1-score game. You kill yourself. You shoot yourself in the foot at 4:30. It just makes no sense to me. I don't see how you can sit there and weigh all the options. You're like, you know what? Worst case scenario, we're back in the exact same spot and we never have a chance to win. I don't see how you go through that and you're like, all right, yep, that sounds like a good idea. So I have no idea, no clue what they're thinking there. But yeah, it was absolute malpractice there late. And then yeah, I do want to mention the player of the game by far, Quintravion Wisner. He ended up with, I think he had like 33 carries, I think it was. Let's see his exact. I think he had like 186 in this game. Yep, 33 carries, 186, and no touchdowns. But Kirk and Chris Fowler did a phenomenal job mentioning it numerous times. That brother is, he fits all the words in the book. Slippery, he's not tackleable. Yeah, like whatever they were saying, everything was very, very, very correct. And yeah, he BYU only up 4 right now. That is very, very, very noteworthy because if BYU loses this game, Colorado is going to the Big 12 championship. So nobody's bigger Houston fans right now than the Colorado Buffalo. So, but I do want to give a shout out to Quintravion Wisner, especially because he had like 150 against my Wildcats last week. So that was impressive. I mean, Jarquez Hunter kind of like tripled that almost, but like doing that on Kentucky is still pretty impressive. Like obviously we weren't good this year, but it's still impressive to do that on a Brad White defense. But and Quintravion, he was like supposed to be the 3rd running back on the Russ this year, 4th maybe. Just all the injuries in front of him, and then he sits here and steps up and gets all the shine in this big game. So big shout out to him. Love that kid, Quintravion. So it was literally every time he touched the ball, I felt like he got 7 yards minimum. Like he was absolutely balling the entire time. So those were obviously the huge games I did want to mention. So the post-game drama. I didn't talk about the Michigan and Ohio State one. So I'll talk about that now. So this is all the post-game drama from across the country. I just mentioned A&M stomped on the logo, apparently. Some of the players did, even though Sark tried to stop it all. I don't really know. I'll have to look into that after I stop filming. But the main one, the one that started it all, Michigan and Ohio State. Michigan goes and plants the flag in the O. Obviously, top 2 most hated rivalry in college football, without debate. And then you go plant it on your opponent's field. Now, there's a million different opinions on this out there. There's really 2 ways you can look at it. Bad move by Michigan or bad move by Ohio State to fight them for it. So I just want to talk about it a little bit. So obviously, Michigan, you can say like win with class and don't take the flag, go plant it. Just be like, oh yeah. And I saw a couple of their players like mocking the OHIO. Oh, that's cool. The planting the flag is where, Jack Sawyer gets a little upset. So he goes and takes the flag, rips the flag off. And then some like equipment manager pulls up and tries to like get it. All the guys start punking on him. So it was wild. It was wild. The old-fashioned, old head take of it is like, you don't want to see him do that? Why don't you just beat him? That's exactly how I feel in this situation. I don't always feel like that. Like, obviously, like if it was like a 2-point spread, really, really good game, I would maybe feel different. Ohio State, you were a 20-point favorite over this team. All you had to do was win. All you had to do was win. Not even like cover that. Just win the ballgame. And speaking of that, I now have to paint my nails maize and blue, so I'll be on my Jared McCain stuff. But, yeah, I lost a bet for it, so I'll have to do that for like a week. But nonetheless, if you don't want them to do that, beat them. Just win the game. Win the game. And a lot of people were referencing like when Texas did it earlier in the year. Texas went to Michigan, won in the Big House, planted the flag. Michigan didn't do anything. They lost. They were like, you know what? We'll take it. Little cowardish from Ohio State to fight them, but at the end of the day, I do understand like not going to let somebody disrespect your field like that. If you're right there, why aren't you just going to fight it? So And then now I think there's like the Ohio police are getting investigated for pepper spraying some of the guys. So it was absolute chaos at the end there. And then Ryan Day was like, no, our guys are gonna not allow the disrespect and not gonna allow that, whatever. Blah blah blah. Like a lot more is probably gonna come out of that. A lot of quotes and different things, but and I thought it was super super cool. Sharon Moore shooting the arrow across the field at Ryan Day when the clock was hitting 0. That was crazy. So there was that one. Arizona State in the what is Duel in the Desert. That's that rivalry. They plant the Trident in the A on Arizona's field. That obviously gets some people mad. So there's a fight from that. NC State tries to plant the flag at North Carolina. I don't think they successfully ended up doing it because I think a North Carolina player went and took the flag from the NC State player and just threw it. And then there was a fight. Florida tried to plant the flag in Tallahassee. And Mike Norvell, not even just a player, Mike Norvell is the one that kind of stops it. So there was that one, and then the one tonight. So who knew it was flag planting day? I didn't know it was like a national holiday that all these teams said they were going to have flags planted and it was going to be chaos. But and there wasn't a flag planting, but there was also just fights throughout the Iron Bowl too. So it was a crazy day. Crazy day of college football. It was absolutely electric. But moving on from that, I do want to talk about the current state of the Kentucky Wildcats. This is obviously like out of my like adult fanhood. This is the all-time low. 4-8 finish. First time missing a bowl since 2015. First time losing a Governor's Cup game since 2017. Which, speaking on that, Louisville fans won one game and don't know how to act. So that was crazy. I didn't get into like the beef or anything, but it was wild. But this is very, very, very oddly similar to the end of the Calipari era. I saw Jack Pilgrim had tweeted. This was Mark Stoops' Oakland game, obviously referring to Cal's last game. So this is very, very similar to what the fan base felt like with Cal. Fan base feels like that with Stoops. They're like, dude, you got to go, man. This is like, obviously you did amazing things here. You were an amazing coach for this program. Took us to heights unimaginable. But he's hurt himself. He's now below 500 as a coach in Kentucky. He's hurting this program, and we're going into like such a new era of the revenue sharing and all these different things that are coming into college football that like we want something new. And honestly, part of the fan base wanted Louisville to blow us out today to have him like retire on spot. That didn't work because after the game he said people were wanting to replace me, but I'm not going anywhere. So it's absolute chaos right now. So it seems like as of right now, Stoops is going to be back next year. And what's the scary thing about it is Stoops will be back, but we're running it back with the exact same certain groups. This is going to be ran back with Stoops and a much, 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 much worse roster, barring any unforeseen wild transfer portal classes or something where like Caleb Downs, where you get like an EA college football type of transfer class on like freshman difficulty. That would be the only scenario where it's not like a worse class or a worse team next year. Obviously, you have some easier road games than what you had this year. You don't have to go to Neyland. You don't have to go to Ole Miss. You don't have to go to Texas. You get those games at home next year. You do have to go to South Carolina, who's going to be scary. Lenore Sellers, absolutely incredible game today. So there's like no optimism going into the season. So two guys I do want to mention. So it seems like Bush Hamden, the OC, is going to be back. Eric Wolford, he is awful. So he was here. He was at Kentucky, which obviously if you're not a Kentucky fan, you can skip this segment. Or if you're not interested in hearing about Kentucky, then you can skip this. I don't talk about Kentucky much at all. So this is just a rare occasion where I'm going to do it. So if you don't like it, just go ahead and skip it. But Eric Wolford, offensive line coach. We had a man by the name of John Schlarman that was here until the 2020 season and sadly passed away and the O-line has not been good since. So Eric Wolford ended up taking over Will Levis's second year when we had the worst O-line in Power 5 football. Then he claims he's going on a recruiting trip, leaves in the middle of the night without telling anybody, takes the Alabama job, and Nick Saban hires him. Nick Saban then fires him, and he returns to Kentucky with Mark Stoops having like open arms. So that kind of rubs me the wrong way, the fact that like he did that and he's getting welcomed back, but like, Stoops is a very loyal guy. I get that. He's also just not getting the job done at all. I'm not even gonna act like I never played O-line. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of O-line, but the thing that, like they said, Schlarman was so good at was developing and getting like troops built up. And like they called it the Big Blue Wall back when Schlarman was here. And so what he was so good at was like replacing these guys and getting like freshmen in early and like getting them in games and different things. And so it was always prepared. When guys would leave, the line behind them would step up and they would be perfectly executing everything to a T. And he was just a great O-line coach. And now it seems like we're going to be having Eric Wolford back at this point. So, I mean, I don't know. Stoops has said somebody's going to have accountability and there's going to be a lot of changes. But so that could be one of them. So we'll see what happens with him. He's been terrible, though. Eric Wolford has been absolutely awful. And then Brad White. This has been a thing for a while now because, like, ever since Brad White got to Kentucky, whatever it was, 2017, 18, whatever, Kentucky's had, like, by most numbers, like a top, like, 11 to 15 defense in the country. Obviously, these last couple of years have been, like, down because we've had games where we've allowed points. But he's been such an amazing defensive coordinator. Has slight flaws, but, like, overall, phenomenal, amazing defensive coordinator. And now he's been rumored for numerous jobs. And I don't know the level of, like, how legit it is, but there's rumors about Brad White maybe going to be the DC at Florida State, which also, if you missed that, Gus Malzahn stepping down as the head coach of UCF to be the OC at Florida State next year. That was crazy. That was just another part of the absolutely wild day of college football. But so that would obviously hurt if Brad White goes to Florida State. I've also heard rumors for the Florida job as a DC. So both of those would be crushing. Just losing Brad White in general would suck. So obviously, if this is ran back and these things happen, if Eric Wolford comes back and Brad White's gone, next year we might go 2-10. Like, it's going to be bad. It will be terrible. We've now lost 8 straight games to Power 4 opponents at Kroger Field. So, like, even today, the crowd kind of showed up a little bit. Like, it wasn't sold out by any means, but they still showed up and ran off the field. I'm not going to lie. Like, I turned the sound to the, what was it? I think at 10-0, when Louisville went up 10-0, I switched the sound to the South Carolina and Clemson game. And obviously, I switched it to the Michigan-Ohio State game later on. But, yeah, this was definitely record timing of me switching the sound off of the game. I was just tired of it, man. Like, I kind of expected it. Like, I picked Louisville to win on the graphics. I knew they were going to win it. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. But, yeah, it was absolutely terrible. And there's the hashtag going around for Kentucky fans, hashtag we want Summerall. That's the big uproar of the Kentucky fan base, which I don't think it's going to matter because we can't really afford to fire Mark Stoops. So, but a lot of the fan base really wants John Summerall. And if you're not familiar with him, incredible overall coaching record. He was our linebackers coach a few years ago, and he played at Kentucky. He was linebackers coach under Stoops. Went to Troy, had a great couple years there. Took the Tulane job this year, and obviously I think they're finishing 9-3 this year in the AAC championship. They'll be playing Army, and they lost to Memphis this week, sadly, but they were a team that was rumored to maybe be able to knock the Big 12 champ out if they were to continue winning. So, I mean, he's a phenomenal coach. I don't think that's like a crazy take at all. It's been 3 years, and outstanding coach. So that's who the fan base really wants right now. And I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, but yeah, That's kind of the current state of the program. It's just like nobody. I haven't seen one person say they want to keep Stoops. Some people are obviously quiet, and they're probably in that party of wanting to keep Stoops. But we'll see. We'll see what it looks like from here. So now I believe it is officially set for most of the conference championships, which are next Saturday. The 4:00 game, SEC championship, it'll be Georgia versus Texas. Obviously, the rematch is going to be an amazing, amazing football game. Big Ten championship. Now with the Ohio State loss, Penn State slides in. First Big Ten championship since, I think, 2016? 17? I think 16. I'm going with 16. Penn State's in. They win 44-7 today against Maryland. Really, really hot team. They're going to play Oregon in that. So that's going to be an awesome game. That's a 8:00 game. I think both of these are 8, Big Ten and ACC. ACC is now SMU versus Clemson because Miami goes up to Syracuse and they go down on kind of a stupid ending again. Mario Cristobal kicks a field goal instead of going for a touchdown when they're down 7 points. So there was that ending. So Clemson and SMU, obviously 3 of those, all 3. So every single game, I just realized this. All 4 of the Power 4 championship games are going to have somebody in it that is new, first year in the conference. So Georgia is playing Texas first year in the conference. Penn State versus Oregon first year in the conference. SMU versus Clemson, SMU first year in the conference. Big 12 championship, this is a noon kickoff, but Arizona State is in first year in the conference. This is crazy. So as I mentioned earlier, Arizona State will be playing I'm assuming BYU is going to pull this off. Let me see what the score is at this point. Let's see. Because if BYU... Okay, BYU's up 21-10 at halftime. So assuming BYU holds on, they will be playing Iowa State. Arizona State will play Iowa State in the championship game. So Iowa State handled business. They won Farmageddon. So now, it's all up to BYU, which is crazy late kickoff for that game. But, Iowa State scraped out. They had the the field stormed, all this chaos. And, great game for the Cyclones too. But, so it's wild. But the championship games are set for the most part. By the time this is up, I'm assuming it's going to be Arizona State, Iowa State, in the Big 12 championship. So that's all the games right there. Obviously, I'll pick those. And then the Mountain West, I think it's actually set. I know UNLV dominated today, but I don't even think that game really mattered. So it's Boise State UNLV rematch in Boise, I think. So obviously that game's very, very, very important because the winner of that game is in the college football playoff. So I'll pick those games this week. I don't know when the Mountain West Championship will be off the top of my head. Let's see if I can find that out real quick. That game will be Friday. So, yes, it is. The Old Trapper Mountain West Football Championship at Albertson Stadium in Boise, Idaho. So, that game's going to be amazing. Number 11 Boise versus number 22 BYU. Fun game on our hands. Now, I want to mention, as I start to wind down, obviously I'll probably get a video up Wednesday, I think it'll be this week. Might be Thursday, so we'll see. It'll be Wednesday or Thursday, midweek type thing. We'll talk more college basketball on that because the new AP poll will be out after a crazy Maui and crazy battle for Atlantis, which shout out to Oklahoma Sooners. The SEC is getting 12 teams in the NCAA tournament this year, and it's not even a joke. All of this chaos, my Kentucky Wildcats will probably be top 5. So it's going to be awesome. Excited for this week. SEC, ACC Challenge this week. So I'll talk about those too. That's Tuesday and Wednesday, I think. So I'll probably do an episode that'll come out Thursday. If not, I'll see. Now, I want to mention this before because this is the biggest topic of discussion on the Jump Sports on Twitter. If you don't follow that, definitely go check it out. The South Carolina Gamecocks. This is the team of the year. obviously, outstanding end of the year for South Carolina. I believe they've won 6 straight now. Let's take a look at their 6 straight games, 3 of which were against ranked teams. I mean, really impressive ending of the year. But they should not be in the college football playoff because if Alabama and Ole Miss aren't in there also, they should not be in there. Now, obviously, the reason I say that is because of the head-to-heads. The hottest take of the evening to a lot of people, it seems like, to the biggest South Carolina fans across the country, they are mind blown that I have the take that head-to-head matchups matter. If you don't take into account the head-to-head matchups, what's the point of playing the games? I thought that was obvious. Now they're like, well, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. Ole Miss lost to LSU. Ole Miss made Mississippi State look good. Ole Miss has all these. It's like, dude, I don't care who they've lost to. They went to Columbia. I don't care how banged up Lenore Sellers was. They went in there and absolutely murdered you. 27-3 in Columbia. That's got to matter. If that doesn't matter, then never play the games and just play all these games and scratch head-to-head matchups and be like, oh yeah, that team looks pretty. They look pretty interesting towards the end of the year. Let's just throw them in the playoffs. There has to be a level of deservement. Is that even a word? I don't think deservement's even a word. Obviously not a huge English guy. Whatever. You get what I'm saying. There has to be, you have to deserve. Now, it's coming back to the Florida State talk last year. They were more deserving than Alabama, but they put the better team in, whatever that is. Forget that. Yes, Florida State deserved to be in, whatever. South Carolina, you have 3 losses. If they're letting 3 lost teams in, they've got to let 2 of them in before you. The Alabama Crimson Tide and the South Carolina, or in the Ole Miss Rebels. Obviously, I can understand you more. I'll listen to you and understand it more if you want to argue that South Carolina should be in over Alabama. That one I can get behind. Ole Miss should definitely be in over South Carolina. But if you want to argue for Alabama, Oregon just won the Players Era Festival with a dramatic win over Alabama. I turned that one off, but I'm going to have to go watch the end of that again because I ended up turning that off to go film this. So, yes, Alabama, they obviously look terrible. They lost by 3 touchdowns to Oklahoma last week. At that point, you're talking about a deserving team versus who looks the best. South Carolina looks the best at this time. But you can't argue the South Carolina Gamecocks over the Ole Miss Rebels at this point. There's no way. I can't even imagine a world where you're like, oh yeah, that game doesn't matter at all. That's mind blowing to me. But yeah, before I get to the end of the show and the final wrap up thing, I'm gonna go through some scores. Dan Lanning finally gets over the hump. He was 0-3 against Washington. They won 49-21. Gabriel threw for 2 touchdowns in this one. Incredible season by them. 49-21 final. Michigan 13, Ohio State 10, Texas 17-7. Incredible game. I mentioned Penn State whooping Maryland. I think Tyler Warren now has the most receiving touchdowns in Penn State history. By a tight end, 17 now. Notre Dame, they avoid a scare in Los Angeles. Jeremiah Love, phenomenal game. I think he now holds the record for Notre Dame rushing touchdowns in consecutive games. I think it's 12 straight now. They were somewhat in a nail-biter. And then in the end, 2 straight pick sixes for that Notre Dame defense that looked incredible. One was 99 yards and one was 100 yards. So it was awesome. They ended up getting out of there with a win. A little bit of a scare. Number 6, Miami goes down 42-38. Tennessee, they started out as bad as you can start a game. They let Vanderbilt score the opening kickoff, and then they fumble. Vanderbilt goes 14-0. And then I think from that point it was Dante Thornton touchdown, and Tennessee really never looked back. Great defensive showing from the Vols in the second half. That was the Vols defense that we knew all year. 36-23 final. It's called the Volunteer State for a reason. Cal and SMU, the new ACC guys, and SMU 38-6, absolute dominance. So I do kind of hope that if they somehow lose this ACC championship, I hope they still get a chance to get in. So it's going to be absolutely crazy just to see, wow, Wyoming beat freaking Washington State. Good Lord, Wazoo, what happened? But yeah, SMU is very, very deserving. And same with like Miami. I think they're pretty deserving to get in, and I think like a team like Miami should be in over like Alabama. So take that for whatever you want. But like, I don't know, SMU's rolling, and they win the troll game because they said let the whole world know that this is Mustang territory or whatever. The California champ. The Old Oaken Bucket. Yeah. 66-0. The Palmetto Bowl. South Carolina 17-14. I just want to read off some of these numbers real quick. Lenore Sellers had 164 passing yards and 166 rushing yards. And the 2 rushes, if you didn't see those rushing touchdowns, those were Lamar. I'm just saying. Little Lamar liking him. Alabama wins the Iron Bowl. Kalen DeBoer's 1-0 in that. This is their longest streak since Bear Bryant was the coach. They've won 5 straight years against Auburn. Arizona State beats Arizona. Farmageddon, Iowa State wins. Missouri won the Snow Bowl against Arkansas. That was an absolute gross game. I watched like maybe 5 seconds of it. Can't lie. Didn't watch much of that one. Illinois and Northwestern. Yeah, they played at Wrigley. Sick helmets from Illinois. They had the Ivy on them. 38-28 final in that one. So that was going through some scores, some important scores. Yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, Boise State rolled. Ole Miss was, fine. We'll see. Oh yeah, I do need to mention this. Colorado 52-0. This was crazy. And yeah, Travis Hunter. I posted about it, but this brother had 116 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had an interception in the game. Man, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I guess the answer has to be Florida State for who is the most disappointing team in college football this year. Oklahoma State's right there. Like they're saying hold my beer because they might have an argument for it. 0-9 in conference, 3-9. 3-9. This is the team that was the favorite to win the Big 12 this year, and they go 3-9. Like, what are you, man? We may have seen Gundy's last game there. I don't know. We'll see if he ends up retiring or not. But yeah, what a wild time we live in. So to wrap this up, I mentioned it at the beginning in the intro. Rest in peace to Lou Carnesecca, an absolute legend, a Hall of Famer. Can't say enough about him. And let me just read to you John Fanta's tweet because he said it better than I can. This guy, Lou Carnesecca, let me see. Let me find Fanta's tweets. There we go. Lou Carnesecca has passed away at the age of 99. You cannot tell the story of college basketball, of the Big East, of New York City hoops without Louie, who was St. John's. 526 wins in 24 years. Never had a losing season. 1985 Final Four. 2-time National Coach of the Year. All-time personality. So he coached the Johnnies and the New York Nets at the time. An absolute legend. And yeah, there's a big game this week in Carnesecca Arena, so it'll be super emotional in there. Absolute legend. So just want to say rest in peace to him. Prayers with his family and prayers with all of the St. John's and Johnny's community because that's going to be a tough one. That is an absolute legend of the game. So I think that'll just about do it. We'll have the other episode will come out and Heisman very soon. So we'll see if anything changes on my list this week. Yeah, we'll see. It's kind of a quick little, just throwing stuff together, wrap up type thing. And yeah, it didn't. Obviously, Tuesday is the biggest college football playoff rankings because I think they're basically saying for like the SEC, Big Ten, maybe even Big 12. I mean, honestly, Big 12 and ACC. ACC is the most interesting, where the outcome will matter a lot. But like the SEC and Big Ten, theirs isn't really going to matter a whole lot. Like I think those teams are in. I think in any scenario, those 4 are in. The ACC could get interesting because a loss can get somebody in maybe, and so that one would be interesting. Then the Big 12 is just a one big league, so that one's going to be just the champion is in, losers out. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome week. Can't wait. Make sure you all tune in to that episode in the middle of the week, and we'll talk a lot of college basketball on that one. So Thank you again. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for tuning in. It is late night. I'm Eastern Standard Time, so these SEC games that like go late into the night, they're tough on a kid. So thank you for tuning in. Have a great Sunday, or have a great week whenever you're watching this. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for tuning in, and peace.